Welcome to part 2 of a series of YouTubes around sovereignty and recognition. This YouTube will be looking at how native title is a transfer of sovereignty and a transfer of land acquisition. So what I would like to look at now is an international case of sovereignty with the Western Sahara case, where Spain was ordered to decolonise from Morocco because it had colonised on the grounds of terra nullius, and the judge had found that you cannot enter a country under the grounds of terra nullius. So this is one of the judge's findings, and he said, the ancestral tie between the land or Mother Nature and the man who was born therefrom remains attached thereto and must one day return thither to be united with his ancestors. This link is the basis of the ownership of soil, or better, of sovereignty. So this now leads to the Mabo versus Queensland number 2, commonly known as the Mabo case, which is the applicable case for our people where terra nullius was overthrown. So the good news is, of course, that terra nullius was overthrown, but the bad news for native title applicants is that anyone applying for native title comes under the common law doctrine. So terra nullius was overthrown, but it was also replaced with Aboriginal title, and that is subject to legislation. So John Toohey, one of the High Court judges for the Mabo case, noted that native title could be extinguished by clear and plain legislation or by an executive act authorised by such legislation. So basically, native title lands can be extinguished at any point through the pathway of a legislation. So there are many legislations around land tenure, land ownership, or land acquisition. So for example, Land Acquisition Act or Land Administration Acts. The government can hold the compulsory acquisition of lands that they hold an interest in. And so native title lands the government hold an interest in. So basically all nations that come through the native title process, the government holds the compulsory land acquisition, that own the land. So furthermore, the sovereignty is also transferred across to prescribed bodies through the prescription process, and the prescription process is the pathway of how sovereignty is transferred. So that's the key pivotal points showing how sovereignty is ceded via native title. So let's look at the Mabo case judges. So John Toohey, he's like president of the Western Bar Association, president of the Law Society of Western Australia at one stage. He helped establish a Aboriginal legal service in Port Hedland, and then was the Aboriginal Land Commissioner in Northern Territory. And then from that point onwards, he was promoted to being the High Court judge. Anthony Mason, he was a solicitor in New South Wales. He was appointed Queen's Counsel in '64, and I think a few years after that, in '69, he was appointed as a judge in the Supreme Court. Now, there were allegations that he played a role in the dismissal of Gough Whitlam after Gough Whitlam introduced land rights in legislation and returned back stolen land. And of course, Anthony Mason, refuted the allegations, but he was sort of dobbed in by John Kerr, who delivered the dismissal letter, and basically sort of dobbed in. Yeah, so this was the first time in Australian colonial history that a Prime Minister had been dismissed without warning. So the dismissal of Gough Whitlam happened in 75, and I just wanted to note that John Toohey, that we looked at before, he was then placed into Northern Territory as the inaugural Land Commissioner in 1977. Then we have Gerard Brennan, who worked as an associate to his father in Supreme Court in Queensland. That was the beginning of his career, legal career. On his first day to his admission, he was accused of sexual assault, and then a colleague on the council announced, "Your Honour, I appear for my learned friend," and basically, quote, "We plead not guilty." He later was appointed on the Queen's Council, and then later replaced Mason as the Chief Justice, and brought in by the Keating government. So then we have William Dean. He received knighthood on the count that he formed part of the majority to recognise native title in the Mabo case. He later became Governor-General. He also was honoured Knight Commander of the Order of the British Empire. Mary Gaudron, she was the first female justice on the High Court. She was also the youngest ever federal judge. When she was asked about the Constitution, like what is the Constitution, and she was quoted as saying, "Laws by which parliaments are governed." So last we have Michael McHugh, who was also on the Queen's Council and President of Australian Bar Association. He was the Minister for Immigration and Multicultural Indigenous Affairs. He's known for his speech, "The Need for Agitators, the Risk of Stagnation." And pretty much in that speech he was pushing hard for a Bill of Rights, in which the Constitution doesn't have. And he seems to be, from my research, an advocate for human rights in some capacity. So in summary, I think my concern is the first few judges that I highlighted rather than the last two. But in general, from what I can see, is that these guys control the law. They judge the law at the highest level. They even write the law, and they even be involved in Parliament. And I think they've got too much power for just a few people. And they gatekeep natural justice law, and basically control parliaments via legislations and the common law that control everything. So why does the government need Aboriginal title?
You know, the colony needed Aboriginal title, which didn't exist before the Mabo case, because of Grand Olliot, to gain control over the states and territories' land, mineral-rich land. And so they used Eddie Mabo's case to create Aboriginal title and then native title, which gave them access and control over Aboriginal land for mining, predominantly.
The continued usage of the Australian Constitution Act by the Australian governments and the judiciary is a confidence trick of monstrous proportions played upon the Australian people with the intent of maintaining power. It remains an act of the United Kingdom.
Sorry doesn't mean just sorry to someone's generation, but for all generations, which our culture, freedom and land has been stolen. Which our culture, freedom and land has been stolen. Sorry is not just for the past generations wrongs, but for the present generations, past and present. Which our culture, freedom and land has been stolen. Which our culture of freedom and land has been stolen, past and present. Sorry is not letting us walk that suspicion, painting us with the same brush, not allowing the education system to meet our demands, for the media's misrepresentation and often biased view, for treating Aboriginal people as guinea pigs in regards to medical research and advancement for their own use, Maralinga, birth control, for treating Aboriginal people as guinea pigs in the workforce with dangerous chemicals and unfit conditions, cotton chip and asbestos, for letting Aboriginal people into slavery for working for underpaid situation, underpaid rations, promised years of missionary and stock and waste, never received. Assimilation and genocide of our culture. Sorry does not cost Australian taxpayers any money.
Irmara, buluru, buluru, Irmara, Nemberu, Mandambiri. Ira! Bolo, Irmara, Nemberu, Narbo.